Imagine building a company from your garage, watching it grow into a $1 billion business. Then one day, being fired from the very company you created. It sounds impossible, but that's exactly what happened to Steve Jobs. The co-founder of Apple lost control of his own company at just 30 years old. Humiliated and publicly rejected, Jobs faced a choice: give up or start over. His decision would change technology forever. Steve Jobs was born in 1955 and adopted shortly after birth. Growing up in California, he became fascinated with electronics. As a teenager, he spent countless hours experimenting with technology. In 1976, Jobs teamed up with his friend Steve Wozniak. Working from the garage of Jobs' parents' home, the two young entrepreneurs started a company called Apple. Their goal was simple: put a computer in every home. At the time, most people thought computers were only for businesses and scientists. But Jobs saw the future before anyone else, and that vision would soon make Apple one of the fastest-growing companies in America. The Apple II became a huge success. Sales exploded. Investors poured money into the company. Within a few years, Apple had grown from a garage startup into a major technology company. Steve Jobs became one of the most recognizable young entrepreneurs in the world, but success brought new challenges. Jobs was brilliant. He was also demanding, intense, and often difficult to work with. Employees admired his vision, yet many struggled with his management style. As Apple grew larger, tensions inside the company began to rise, and a storm was approaching. In 1984, Apple launched the Macintosh. It was revolutionary, but sales didn't meet expectations. Meanwhile, disagreements between Steve Jobs and Apple executives became increasingly serious. The company's board sided with CEO John Sculley. The conflict reached a breaking point. In 1985, Steve Jobs was forced out of Apple, the company he had created, the company he loved, gone. At just 30 years old, Steve Jobs found himself unemployed. The world watched as Apple's founder was pushed aside. Many believed his best years were behind him. For months, Jobs felt lost. He later described it as one of the most painful experiences of his life. But something unexpected happened. Without the pressure of Apple, he felt free to create again. Instead of quitting, Jobs started a new company called Next. The company focused on building powerful computers for education and business. At the same time, he purchased a small animation division from Lucasfilm. Few people paid attention, but that tiny company would later become Pixar, and Pixar would change animation forever. For years, Pixar struggled financially. Many investors doubted the company, but Jobs believed in its potential. In 1995, Pixar released Toy Story. The movie became a massive success. It was the world's first fully computer-animated feature film. Audiences loved it, critics praised it, and suddenly, Steve Jobs had proven his critics wrong. Again. But an even bigger comeback was still ahead. While Steve Jobs was rebuilding his career, Apple was struggling. The company was losing money and running out of ideas. Ironically, Apple's solution came from the man they had fired. In 1997, Apple acquired Next. As part of the deal, Steve Jobs returned. This time, he wasn't the young entrepreneur from the garage. He was wiser, more experienced, and ready to transform the company. Under his leadership, Apple launched products that changed the world: the iMac, the iPod, the iPhone, the iPad. Apple became one of the most valuable companies in history, and Steve Jobs completed one of the greatest comeback stories ever told. Most people think success is a straight path. Steve Jobs proved otherwise. He achieved success, lost everything, started over, and achieved even greater success. Years later, Jobs reflected on being fired from Apple. He said it was one of the best things that ever happened to him because it forced him to begin again, to learn, to grow, and to become the person who would ultimately change the world. Sometimes the setback you fear most can become the opportunity that defines your future. Steve Jobs was fired from his own company, yet he returned stronger than ever, and that's why his story continues to inspire millions around the world.